Introducing the SaniTech SIB3 Smooth Inner Bore Welder from Saint-Gobain Performance Plastics. This beadless welding system for SaniTech PVDF and polypropylene piping of 3/4 inch to 3 inches is fast, providing the shortest weld cycles of any beadless system. Portable, lightweight, reliable, and easy to use, it features a menu-driven touchscreen with automated weld programs that prompt the installer with directions. The SIB3 technology ensures a smooth inner surface with no beads, free from entrapment areas or flow restrictions. The primary components of the SIB3 include the SIB3 control unit, connected to the weld head by a single 15-foot cable, and an inflatable bladder to support and maintain the inner bore of any weld. The SIB3 is simple to set up and use. Powered by both 110 and 220-volt systems, the universal power connector is located on the side. Along with the touchscreen control surface, the face has the power button and indicator light and manual bladder controls. The side has pneumatic connections for incoming compressed air and air out to the inflatable support bladder, and a USB connection for connectivity to a label printer. This robust connection is for the remote weld head control cable. This single cable carries both the electrical and pneumatic connections necessary for the welding process. The newly designed SIB3 weld head features an updated positive clamping system that allows the operator to lock it open during weld preparation. The stainless steel handle keeps cool during the weld cycle, while the weld head reaches a temperature of 400 degrees. The internal cleats provide the compression needed for the fusion process. The back of the handle has the locking connector for the electrical and pneumatic control cable. There's also a button to remotely start the weld cycle, conveniently located on the side of the handle along with the power indicator. Each pipe size requires a specific weld head. The compact design of the remote head is perfect for in-position welds and can be hung in locations like ceilings, under lab sinks, and interstitial spaces. Connection to the SIB3 control unit is made with a robust 15-foot cable with gender-specific ends for a positive connection. The SIB3 inflatable support bladder is comprised of a fluoropolymer sleeve held in place by 2 aluminum end caps and connected to the control unit by a push-to-connect pneumatic end connection. This demonstration using the manual controls shows it in action. When making a weld, the bladder is inserted to the weld point and it automatically inflates and deflates at programmed intervals during the weld cycle. It supports and maintains the ID and provides a smooth inner bore fluid path. Setup begins with connecting a compressed air line regulated to between 50 to 100 psi. Simply push the fitting in until it stops to connect the fitting on the side of the unit. The cable connecting to the remote head is then connected to the port and locked in place on the unit and the remote head. Once your pipe is cut and faced, it's important to clean the two ends with isopropyl alcohol at a concentration of 90% or better. The inflatable support bladder line is connected to the SIB3 side port and then fed through the pipe to the point where the weld will be made and connected to the bladder with the push-to-connect fitting. The bladder is then centered at the junction of the pipe. The assembly is placed in the middle of the weld head and locked in place. Now that the pipe is set in the weld head, it's time to set up the weld cycle. The configuration screen will indicate the tube size and the type of material. You can choose between polypropylene and PVDF. You can also choose between welding tube to tube and tube to fitting. It adjusts the weld cycle appropriately. Advancing with the next button, we see the weld parameters controlled by the weld cycle, including the temperature readout of the two sides of the weld head and the bladder pressure. To initiate the weld, simply touch the start button on the screen. An audio alarm indicates that the weld cycle has begun. The program automatically fixes the temperature of the hinged side and the fixed side of the weld head, as well as maintaining bladder pressure. The program is designed to fault if there's a problem with the bladder maintaining pressure within range. The graph at the bottom of the screen gives a visual reference to the temperature and pressure readings. Each weld is assigned a unique ID number, as indicated at the top left portion of the screen. This can be a date and time stamp or operator-assigned number. The total time of the weld cycle is also indicated on the screen for reference. A successful weld is achieved through the programmed temperature and time for the specific materials. The cleats on the weld head provide inward pressure, while the inner bore is being protected by the proper outward pressure of the bladder. The screen data is all captured for the weld document that can be accessed using the assigned weld number. The weld cycle will take approximately 10 minutes and is based on the material being welded. Once the program has achieved the assigned time and temperature, the cycle will change to cooling, and you'll hear the rush of cooling air at the weld, and the screen will indicate that it's running cool. Another audible beep will signal the end of the weld and deflation of the bladder. When the cycle is complete, the operator will be prompted to print a label that can be applied to the pipe to indicate the information about the weld area. By going to the setup menu, the operator also has the option of printing another label. After the audible alarm, it's safe to open the weld head, remove and inspect the pipe. The weld head itself is still hot, so be cautious. The bladder automatically deflates and can be retrieved by pulling on the red air supply line. Weld inspection is done by simply backlighting the weld area and looking for voids, gaps, or trapped contamination. After inspection, apply the printed identification label and move on to the next weld. The SaniTech SIB3 Smooth Inner Bore Welder. State-of-the-art connectivity technology for sanitary piping systems from Saint-Gobain Performance Plastics.